And here we are. What day is it? Is it Tuesday?
I don't know. I feel like we just did this.
Yeah, weren't we just here?
I'm only gonna be able to tell the days apart because I'm gonna be holding a guitar on one of them.
That's it. So, if you're joining us, it is not Tuesday night. It is not Sunday morning. It is Wednesday night.
Now, if you missed Tuesday night, you missed a party.
I got to say, I really enjoyed that.
It's a good time.
I really did, and I was a little nervous, for sure, and I enjoyed it, and I think we got some great feedback, and we would love to hear if you have some less than ideal feedback. We are not masters of all trades, so Josh, do you have a beverage of choice?
I do. I don't know if I'm a master of any trade. I'm drinking, as always, from my classic Rangers. This was the same mug. I saw John Daniels. He was at his home with his MacBook doing the MLB draft.
Okay.
I was that bored. I was watching the baseball draft. And he had this exact mug.
There you go.
So I've got a MacBook. I have a Texas Rangers coffee cup. I should be able to draft for the Rangers.
Well, I have to say this. If you're bored enough to watch the baseball draft, you're too bored.
Yeah, I only tuned in when it was our pick, so it's not like I was sitting there watching the whole thing.
I've heard of paint drying, but geez.
Well, I'd rather watch that than NASCAR. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'd rather watch NASCAR. At least you have the anticipation of an accident.
Don't you feel bad about that?
As long as everyone walks away, no, not so much.
Yeah. I was a kid when Dale Earnhardt Sr. died, and that was it. I can't watch it.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible. Because it, from the video, you're like, oh well, but just goes to show. You just don't know.
It is crazy some of the crashes those guys go through, and then they just get up and walk away.
Providence.
There you go, Johnny. Providence. Another left turn. Turn to the left. Turn to the left.
Providence. So, well, we did have a good time last night, and we hope that you had a good time. And if you happened to miss last night's first installment on Systematic Theology, it's available to you. You can go and watch it. If you'd rather listen to it because you think we sound smarter than we look, it's available to you on our podcast, and so that's awesome.
Now you know who doesn't sound smarter than they look, or who's now anybody walking to your office, you look even smarter now.
Yeah, I look like something. I don't know. So, yeah.
So if you don't, some people in our church have never darkened the doors of the office, and there's other people that walk in a little too frequently, if I do say so myself. But if you've never come through and seen the offices, you won't be too impressed by mine. But Jimmy's is worth a pilgrimage.
I wonder, are there people who do not know where the offices are?
It's true.
If you don't go to look it. So, but I want to give a special shout out to my watch party. If you're with us and you're on the Facebook side of things, I invite you to launch that watch party and invite people to come and join you. I'm going to straighten my camera up there or something. I look like I'm staring off into the abyss. But I want to say hello to all my folks there. Wow. Hey, Normanda, it's good to see you. Normanda and I go way back. We were both much younger then. But
Normanda Gibson?
Oh, you know Normanda?
Yeah, Cliff is a friend of mine and really, really good friends with Caleb. So yeah, Cliff and Normanda.
You can't talk bad about nobody.
Nope, sweet people, very sweet people.
Oh yeah. So
they just had a son graduate.
Oh, yeah. I just got older. Right then.
Feel old.
Just like that. So, well, I had the chance to slip away for an overnight with my bride. kind of a Father's Day thing to get down and see my son, our son, in Tyler. He's unable to leave the city because of his work responsibilities. And so we slid down to Tyler and spent some time with him. That was awesome. Got to go to a movie in a movie theater.
Woot woot.
And we went to Studio Movie Grill, and we were the only 3 people in the theater. That's the way rich people see movies. And we got to see, for the first time for me, on the big screen, the original Willy Wonka.
Gene Wilder.
That was awesome. It was awesome. And, now I realize why it looks like I'm looking. Because I'm looking at you.
Oh, don't look at me.
Well, I was like, what am I looking at?
I should look at the camera. Here I am looking at the camera, the little green dot. I always just look at you.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I'm not very good with. I don't have the stage presence you do. I don't even have a light in my face like you do. It's just, I'm just a man in a guitar, man. I'm a simple dude.
That's it. Hey, presentation, man. You gotta. I have to admit this. I'll just admit it. So one of the things that I have found myself doing is just perusing, going around and seeing what other churches are doing during the time of the COVID. I don't know if you've heard, but there's a virus. And I'll slip in and I'll listen to a message, some of my friends and things. And I do tend to slip on a presentation critic hat. And I mean, if it's worth doing kind of good. I mean, because
y'all should just know that there's a process when Jimmy gets ready for these things. There's a makeup crew, there's a lighting crew, he's got prompts on his left and his right. Like there's a whole. Don't think he made that coffee. Like it's a whole thing. He's got to sit in the chair for 3-4 hours getting ready. So.
Oh man, hours and hours and hours of prep.
That reminds me, I was watching, don't ask me why, I get on these YouTube rabbit holes. I was watching Arnold Schwarzenegger break down his roles or whatever, and he was talking about his Mr. Freeze role, because it was, I guess, Schumacher just died or whatever, the director, and he made more money as Mr. Freeze than any other movie ever did, but he said he had to sit in the chair for 5 hours every day with them putting the makeup and costume on him.
Huh.
And I was just thinking, I know there's other people who have had to sit longer, but I can't imagine sitting there in a chair for 5 hours every single day while they put makeup and stuff on you. I would just be bored out of my skull.
And here it comes. Hot Sports opinion. Not that great.
No. Yeah, the final product was nothing really to write home about.
He was overpaid.
It's true. Hey, kudos to him, though, for coming over from Austria with that accent and becoming a movie star and becoming the governor of California.
Yeah, I mean, he killed it. Could you say he's lived the American dream?
I'm sure he has.
So were we able to secure a copy of the photograph you were looking for?
Cindy has got one for us. Yes, sir.
Well, I just want to again say a special word of thanks to everybody who was able to participate for the city. And I also want to say thank you to those of you that desired to do it, but you were just hindered, work and things. And I understand, but just thanks, everybody. It was a great couple of days. I've heard some tremendous testimonies, and we made a difference. We made a difference in our community, and quite truthfully, I think society needs a little bit of a win right now.
Yeah. And
the fact that, man, I wouldn't be surprised that over, the week preceding and the 2 days, I bet you 500-600 people participated.
Wow.
I know they handed out over 400 T-shirts.
Wow.
So that's pretty incredible. But just to come together and just do something good and nice and for nothing more than love of the Lord and love of the community, it was awesome. I got to have some great conversations, and I'm just proud of my little church and proud of our community of faith. And so it was good. It was good, and I think it was good for the city, and it's just good. Boy, if our world ever needed a win, then we need one right now.
And you got to weed eat, which as far as yard work goes, that's up there for you. You're pretty handy with that weed eater.
I could trim the world with a weed eater.
Yeah. I see. I'm terrible at it. I'll mow anything, but I'm the worst weed eater.
Was it your weed eater that I was running?
Yes.
That line, either I was just being extremely good at my job, or that line is tough because it hung in there, and
that's the line that came with it.
That's tough. That's a tough line. It was awesome, and I did get bit by something. I don't know. I don't know if they were chiggers or what, but
there was a lot of that poison oak and stuff or something. Yeah, because I got some. I don't know if they're little pokes of poison oak or bites or something, but yeah, same here.
So yeah.
And I was wearing jeans and boots and everything, but it is what it is.
Give a shout out. I see our brother from Tennessee is with us, so a shout out to Tennessee tonight. Thank you for being here with us. Speaking of being here with us, this Sunday is Brother Earl. Brother Earl Hammond will be with us this Sunday. If you are not familiar with Brother Earl, he is a longtime dear friend of the church and a longtime dear friend of my own. And he's going to be with us. And we're going to do something unique during the 9 o'clock hour. We've not done it before, so that we can share him with all of our ALF family, not just those who will choose to come early at 9 o'clock. So he will be with us here on these platforms. And so you'll get a chance to meet him and hear about the ministry that is going on. There'll probably be some stories from us in the past. And greater than all those things is you get to see where a portion of your faithful giving goes. He is the living investment that you're giving help to support.
And if you need to smile, then all you need to do is be around Brother Earl a little bit. It's hard to be around him and not smile.
I leave feeling better than when I walk in every time, no matter whether it's breakfast or whatever it is. I truly lament that he lives in the Dominican.
Yeah.
I would love, other than the fact that everyone would go to his church, I would love him to live in Greenville. I really would, but that's just not the way the Lord chose to do it. So, well, all right, music man. How about we sing a little, and then we will get on down the road. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Let's do it. All right, I'm going to turn this volume down just a tad. If you can't hear me or you hear me too loud, just let me know. I will adjust as needed. This first one we're going to do is one of my favorites. It's more of a recent song. It's called No Longer Slaves, and it talks about how because we're children of God, we're no longer slaves to fear. And you unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies until all my fears are gone. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave. My mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into your family, and your blood flows through my veins. And I'm no longer a slave. I am a child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. Though I am a child of God, and whoa, child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. Oh, I am a child of God. This next one is an older one. It's one of my favorites. I haven't sang it in a very, very long time, but it's one of those things I get to do on Wednesday nights. So you probably know this one, maybe from your childhood or something. It's called "This Is My Father's World." This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, His hand the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world. The birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. And this is my Father's world. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear Him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget. Then though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. And though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. And this is my Father's world. Why should my heart be sad? The Lord is King, let the heavens ring. God reigns, let the earth be glad. And this is my Father's world. Why should my heart be sad? The Lord is King, let the heavens ring. God reigns, let the earth be glad. Love that song. We don't sing it very often, but it's a good one. This next one, it's a little bit of a faster paced song. It's by a band called Rend Collective, Build Your Kingdom Here. We used to do this one a lot. We haven't done it recently, so this one's kind of more fun with drums, but I'm going to do my best. And then Jimmy will come back. set your rule and reign in our hearts again. Increase in us, we pray. Unveil why we're made. Come set our hearts ablaze with hope, like wildfire in our very souls. Holy Spirit, come invade us now. And we are your church. We need your power in us. We seek your kingdom first. We hunger and we thirst. Refuse to waste our lives, for you're our joy and prize. To see the captives' hearts released, the hurt, the sick, the poor at peace. We lay down our lives for heaven's cause. And we are your church. We pray, revive this earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Unleash your kingdom's power, reaching the near and far. No force of hell can stop your beauty changing hearts. You made us for much more than this. Awake the kingdom, see in us. Fill us with the strength and love of Christ. And we are your church. We are the hope on earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Back to you.
I'm tired just watching you play. Now, Josh, here's an interesting tidbit of trivia. There it is. This is Our Father's World. I learned that for a junior high choir concert.
Nice.
Yes.
I like
never
it.
mind, I was singing soprano at the time. But yes, I learned that for quite a while. So why don't you sip some coffee, catch your breath, and we'll see in a few.
See.
Well, welcome, everybody. I again want to say how much I appreciate you, and a special shout out to all who are on my watch party, to my brother in Colorado, my brother in Mansfield. I see some pastors here and others feeling a little intimidated right now. But the fact that you are taking time to join us here on Wednesday night means the world to me, and I hope that you'll be blessed by our time together. Woo! All right, so we have been talking about the overarching topic of In God We Trust. We live in uncertain days. We can certainly agree in that. There's a lot of disagreement currently, but we can agree that today is a different day. Now, I've not lived in days like these, so every day is unique, but our God is one that we can trust in, and we study that, and we say that, and we reaffirm that, not to validate God, but to encourage ourselves. Because in uncertain days, we need something that is certain, and that something is a someone, and that someone is God. And so we've been looking at this overarching theme, and right now we're in the midst of a study entitled A Faith That Shakes. And we're working through a segment of Paul's life from the Jerusalem Council. Now he's out on his second missionary journey, and we've talked about the fact that it is important about what you believe. When Paul went to the Jerusalem Council and they're discussing about what is biblically authoritative and what is man's preference and the difference between the two, what we believe is vitally important. And that spawned a conversation about theology, and then that spawned our 8-week study on theology, which we had a great time last night. And if you didn't get a chance to plug into that, it's still available to you. You can go back and watch it. But what we believe is of paramount importance, because you see, a faith that shakes, first of all, is solid. It has a solid foundation, an unchanging foundation. If we were being truthful right now in our world, there are those that are wanting to negotiate, change, and otherwise things that have been foundational to us as a nation. And we need something. If we're going to have a faith, we have to have a faith in someone that is solid. The Bible says that God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I want you to know that encourages me, because I know that no matter where I stand, as long as I stand on Him, no matter what's going on around me, no matter how out of control I feel and uncertain I feel, and can I just admit this publicly, and I think I'm going to say something all of you are feeling, the future is really uncertain to us. We just don't know what it's going to look like. I was having conversations just last week about church life and when will we be back to normal? I can say with some certainty that I don't know if we will be normal like we were back in January. I think we're forever changed. Now, has everything gone away? No, absolutely not. But I believe we as a culture, we as a nation, and we as the church are forever changed going forward in the way that we do certain things, in the way that we view things, and those sort of things. And I'm using things way too much. And no, I'm not getting paid by the number of times I use the word things. But I believe, and so we need something that's solid. A faith that shakes is sound. And sound means that it's trustworthy. Sound means that other people testify to its soundness. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So I'll not drill down that too far. And then, of course, a faith that shakes is simple. Is the gospel of Jesus Christ deep? Oh, it's way deep. But it's very simple too. And so we can have a solid faith, we can have a sound faith, and we can have a simple faith. And when we have those, it will shake us to our core. It will shake our lives, how we live them, why we live them, for who we live them. And so we're talking about a faith that shakes. The faith that shakes us as individuals, the faith that shakes us as a body of believers, the church. And then a faith that shakes our world with the good news of Jesus. And so we've been going through this. We talked about conflict. Paul and Barnabas kind of got sideways with each other. They came into a great disagreement to the point where they parted ways. They split fellowship. And we looked at the very real, difficult question: is there a time when believers would be better to part ways? And the answer is yes, there are. Now, there's biblical reasons and there's unbiblical reasons. And we talked about the importance of disagreeing well. And we see that when you look at Paul, they split over John Mark, their disagreement of him, their trustworthiness of him. They disagreed. They split ways. God worked miraculously through the attitudes of men. We left you with the question, was it a good split? I'm still leaving that up to you. But God multiplied his missionary force from 2 to 4 through the attitudes, actions, and choices of these two men. And so now we're moving forward. Paul's on his second missionary journey. He's with Silas, and he's moving west, and he's looking to minister in places that he's been before, and God's going to give him new places as well. And he introduces us to a new helper. Now, do you ever think about the people that God brings into your life? Now, they may not be there forever. It may be a season. As a pastor, I can say one of the most difficult things for me to finally come to peace with, I guess was the word, is that some circumstances, some people in our lives, they're for a season. God will move them in, and then God will move you apart. And that's really hard. I'm a relational guy. I'm a sanguine. Man, I'm just all in. Once you're mine, you're always mine. Normanda, that goes for you. And think about it. The people that God brings into our lives. Normanda, I'm trying to remember. If you would post and let me know. I'm trying to remember what grade you were in when we first met. I can't recall, but I know it was probably junior high. But God brought us together for a season. And then we separated for a season. But the beautiful thing is here we are tonight. We're in the same place, doing the same thing, talking about the same great, timeless God. And that is awesome. Well, God brings Timothy into the life, into the ministry of Paul. And when we think about the people that God brings into our lives, I want you to think about a person that God has brought into your life as you've journeyed in your faith, and how they helped you, and how they added to you, and how important they were to you. And I mean, there's just this will tell you how old I am. There's a Rolodex of faces going on in my face right now, in my head right now, of the people God brought into my life and continues to bring into my life. To touch me, to shape me, to mold me, to guide me, to partner with me, to encourage me, to I see you, Ronnie. Yeah, let's blame Jack. Yeah, that's an inside story. We don't have time, but thank you, Ronnie. That's very humorous. God brings Timothy into his life, and a little background about Timothy is Timothy's mother was a believer. She was Jewish. Timothy's mother was a believer. She was Jewish. Timothy's father was not a believer, not that I've been able to discern. He was Greek in origin of birthright. But we talk about and we think about the importance of a spiritual legacy. I don't know what you had growing up. Perhaps you lived in a spiritual home. I grew up with parents who made spiritual things and church life a high priority. I didn't always appreciate it. I didn't always take the greatest advantage of it, but I thank God for it. When my eyes and my heart and my feet turned back toward the church after wandering off for a season. And if you had that, you need to clap your hands and thank God for it. And if you did not have it, the beautiful thing is that we can overcome that. But Timothy had a godly mother and a godly grandmother, and I know that they had a significant influence on Timothy. Now, one of the questions I haven't been able to answer, and I know that we have some very learned men with us tonight, and you are more than welcome to chime in here. I could not discern whether Paul's first missionary journey had any fingerprints on Timothy's mother or grandmother's faith, coming to faith. I don't know. I haven't been able to discern that. So if you have insight on that, brothers, and you want to share that, I welcome that. And then it talked about that Timothy had witnessed Paul's suffering. Now, if I can refer back to the faith that shakes, the solid, the sound, and the simple, the sound is the testimony of the saints. Now, we don't like to think about it, but some of the greatest testimony ever given to us as believers are by the saints who are going through struggles. We don't want the struggles. We wouldn't buy the struggles, but I have seen Christ on display in the lives of believers who are struggling, suffering, like it's unarguable. And so that brings me to this question. Why will people endure hardship? Now think about it. Now, I'm not talking about hardship like you get tater tots instead of fries at the Sonic. But why will people endure hardship? My mother was the last of 10 children born to my grandmother. And my grandmother raised her children virtually alone. My grandfather, at some point in their lives, decided that 10 was too many, and he stepped away. And my grandmother endured hardship to put a roof over their heads, food in their stomachs, and to see that all 10 of her children graduated high school. Why will we endure hardship? Paul said Timothy had witnessed the endurance of his hardships, beatings and stonings and plots to kill him, just all kinds of hate. Why will we endure hardship? That's one of the greatest questions. And that's why the testimony of the saints is so powerful. Because it's not just that we celebrate in the good times, but it's that we can celebrate even in the difficult times. Think about it. Think about the times that people have pointed you to the cross. Think about the times that people have mentioned this current age, but the glory to come. I remember going to visit, Ronnie, you'll remember this, Jeff, you'll remember this, when we went to visit a brother who was here in our fellowship named Bob. Bob had cancer, and unfortunately, he was beginning to lose the battle. And he had been hospitalized here in Greenville, and a number of our deacons and our elders went to see him. We went to encourage the brother, the one under the hardship, the one fighting for his life. And I will say this, and Ronnie, if I don't get an amen from you, I'm questioning your salvation. Brother Bob walked us to the feet of Jesus. It was one of the most powerful testimonies. Why will we endure hardship? Think about it. Ladies, why will you endure the hardship of birthing children? Why? Why would we do that? Because the outcome is worth the process. Now, what's interesting to me is here's Paul, and he has his new teammate Timothy, and he wants Timothy to be a part of the team, but Timothy has a certain challenge. Timothy's mother was Jewish, but his father was not. Therefore, he was not required to bear the mark of circumcision. Timothy grew up and had not been circumcised. Now he desires to go and serve with Paul. Paul knows that there will be at least a resistance to Timothy by those who would be Jewish because of him not being circumcised. So Timothy's left with the question that echoes through the hallways of the church all the way to today. What are we willing to do? What are we willing to endure to earn the opportunity, nay, the privilege, of sharing the gospel? Now, don't hear me say that someone would receive the gospel. What are we willing to endure for the opportunity to share the gospel? I think far too often we as Christians, if we're not careful, we think the world owes us an audience. Well, my friends, let's just be very clear. The world doesn't see it that way. And can I even go so far as to say this? The audience with the world is getting harder to earn. We live in a cynical world. We live in a world that looks for a reason to separate you out. This won't cost you extra. I'm going to give it to you free. We must be very mindful of what we put into our social media. The world is desperately looking for an excuse to marginalize you and to put you into the cubbyhole. And I remind myself and I remind us as believers that we are citizens of the kingdom first and foremost. My life is here to proclaim the gospel. And we must be very careful, conscientious, and intentional about what we share, because that may rob us of an opportunity. Not a transformation, not a salvation, just the opportunity to share the gospel. Do you ever think about the price that was paid for someone to share the gospel with you? Think about it. I look back in my life, and it was a January morning at Park Street Baptist Church. So let's just take that, shall we? The saints had to be faithful givers, that there's a building, there's electricity, there's heating, there's sound. Just to make the building occupiable, there's got to be a building. There had to be utilities. And then Dr. Dewey Davidson, somewhere in his life in the past, he had to say yes to Jesus in order to say the gospel to me that morning. Not only did he say yes to Jesus and his salvation, he said yes to Jesus in his surrendering to the ministry. He said yes to Jesus to go and be educated in how to proclaim the gospel in a biblical manner, just to show up on that Monday. What did he pay to stand in that pulpit that Sunday morning just to tell me Jesus loves you? I don't even know it all. Do you know what I do know? Is the price that I've paid to proclaim the gospel. I know where I've been. I know what I've done. I know what I've said yes to. I know what I've said no to. I know the late hours of going to school. I know the heartache of having someone that you've wept with and served them, for them just to pack their bags and to hit the bricks. I know what it's like to have someone you love so much and to stand so close to you that they can look you in the eyeball while they slip the knife in your back. Yeah, I know all of that. But it's worth it just to share the good news of the gospel. Because we live in a lost and perishing world. My friends, I can't tell you Jesus is coming tomorrow, but I'm going to tell you what, you couldn't convince me he's not. Look around. And so the question we have to ask is this: what are we willing to pay? Timothy was willing to be circumcised as an adult without the ability to be twilighted. They didn't wheel him into a pristine, sanitized operating room and give him a little of the giggle juice. And no. Here's a question. Does love have to prove itself? I'm going to let you marinate on that one just a second. Does love have to prove itself? Well, think about it. Have you ever been told, I love you, but the evidence argued against that? Oh, we've all done it. I believe that love does have to evidence itself. To say that we love something, there has to be an evidence of proof to that. I could tell you that I love sardines, but there's not one stitch of evidence to prove that to be true. I could also tell you that I love Miss Cindy's bread pudding. There's plenty of evidence to prove that. So let me ask you this. As a believer or as an explorer or an investigator, if I say that I love God, what's the evidence to that? What's the proof of that? When you say that you love someone, there's going to be an evidence of it. I think far too often we, the church, say that we love the world, but the price of admission to that love we set really low. Well, I love the world and I'm willing to give some money so that the lights are on in the building. Well, that's great. But what about the person who doesn't make it to the building? What about the coworker in your office or the neighbor across the street that never makes it in our building or your building? Or what about them? What's the price that you're willing to pay? Walk across the street? No. Love must be evidenced. Love must be proofed. What price are you willing to pay for the opportunity to share the gospel? You ever think? What's too much? What price is too high? Now, I know every single one of you went all the way to the top, and some guy's holding a gun to your head, and you're saying, I just don't think I could do that. I'm not talking about that extreme. What price is too much? God will not give many of us the responsibility of sacrificing the entirety of our life all at once for the sake of the gospel. At least not yet. But he gives us the privilege to sacrifice our lives one day at a time for the gospel. One Facebook post, one tweet on Twitter, one Instagram. God gives us the ability to sacrifice our lives for the opportunity just to tell the world about Jesus. Wow. We talked a little bit Sunday about the law of timing, and I don't want us to go through without tapping on that one just a moment, because timing really is everything. It's hard to be on time. Now, I was one of those that was taught that if you're on time, then you're late. And then I have some wonderful people in my life that on time's a struggle. Timing is everything. For us to be in tune with God's timing means we must walk very close to Him. And the law of timing says this: the law of timing requires a right action at a right time. And so Sunday we talked about the four really quickly. The first one is the wrong action at the wrong time brings forth disaster. Have you ever done the wrong thing at the wrong time? It's pretty easy to identify that. And if you're with someone, it's pretty easy for them to give you a clue, right? The wrong thing at the wrong time. The second one is resistance comes when you do the right action at the wrong time. Now, I'm going to do this because I mentioned it on Sunday. Sunday, I mentioned, and I have permission. Oh, yeah, there we go. When I stood in an ER room with some dear friends of mine, and I have permission, so I feel very good now, okay? And their daughter had broken her leg, climbing on bunk beds. And she's no more had the cast put on, and let me give you that. That's what it looked like. When Dad goes, "So what have we learned here?" I thought, wow, I would be resistant to that. I asked him today, did she remember the lesson? And he said, yeah. So, but you can do the right thing at the wrong time, and that just gives us resistance. Have you ever been resisted as a believer? And then the third one is the wrong action at the right time. The wrong thing at the right time is still wrong. And that's a mistake. We all make mistakes. That's just part of life. Oh, but when we do the right thing at the right time, that's when we're at our best. That's when we are most successful. And so if you're like me, the question I have is this: how can I do the right thing at the right time when all I have as markers is right here and now, which is a little, okay, I know a little, but there's more I don't know. It's uncertain. It's known, but it's not known. I have history, and this is free. It won't cost you extra. History is important. History should never be expunged. History gives us the opportunity to celebrate the good things we've done, to bemoan the bad things that we've done, and to adjust accordingly. If it were not for the history that I have, I would never be able to value the man that God has created me into versus the man that I once was. Let us be very careful about trying to expunge history. A wise man once said, those who fail to remember are doomed to repeat. But how can I know? Psalms 31:15 says, my times are in your hand. How can I be an on-time, right thing kind of guy? I have yesterday, I have now, but tomorrow, it's just a hope. You and I live in a linear life. We have a beginning and an end. We have yesterday and today, tomorrow. But when we walk close to an eternal God who is timeless, the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, God is in our past, He is in our present, and He is in our future right now, all at the same time. God knows. And so when I walk close to Him, when you walk close to Him, we have a higher opportunity, a better opportunity to be on time with the right thing, to be wise as serpent and gentle as doves. It is so important that we walk close to the Lord. The Lord will give us what we need if we're only willing to walk with Him. Our world needs an answer today. It's not a new answer. It's the same answer. And our world needs you to be a faithful, accurate delivery system of that good news in your mission field, wherever that is. We must be on-time believers serving an on-time God for a world that might be on borrowed time. I hope that you have a great week. Let me bring Joshua back in. I got to get his thoughts here. What do you think?
And you were rolling there. I don't know why you stopped.
Well, you know, they only bought the 30-minute ticket. You know, you give it away for free, they're going to want it free all the time.
I love that, man. I think
you know,
that,
just the.
Yeah, I was gonna say just the that question that kind of resonates with me is that what are you willing to do for the opportunity to share the gospel? And you're right, we do take it for granted so often, things that other people were willing to sacrifice their lives to be able to do. And yeah, it's convicting. I mean, that's something that I think we should ask ourselves pretty often.
It's just so easy, and if we're not careful, we just think the world owes us.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of how our society is. I mean,
well,
and social media doesn't help because we feel like, we have this platform and all these kind of things. We have this audience, but those platforms could go away tomorrow. Those are private companies. That could, what happens?
No. Now, Josh, that's as crazy as you saying America couldn't go to church.
Yeah. See, exactly. Right.
And listen, that's just a scotch below telling me that there'd be a day when there's no professional sports.
Yep. Crazier things have happened. So what are you going to do at that point? What happens when there's none of that?
We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, and to be on time. David said that he prayed that he would be relevant in his own generation, to be relevant in our time. Friends, this is our time. And we don't know what's going on, and we're surprised by it, frustrated by it, or whatever attribute. But listen, God knew you, and He knew this, and you're here together.
Right.
And so we can lament it, or we can say, God, use me in it and through it. And I am so thankful for a platform like this. And I'm thankful for the countless people who have taken an hour of their precious life, their one and only life, to come by and to contemplate the things of the Lord. And I treasure this. I treasure the technology. I treasure those who take the time to come and listen. I treasure it's a gift. And the beautiful thing is this, Josh, is God calls us to be faithful.
Amen.
We're casting bread, brother. We don't know which ducks are going to come up and gobble it up. But we are faithful to deliver the gospel in the knowledge that God says it never returns void.
Amen.
It never returns void. Now, what the return on investment is, well, that's God. That's up to God. But you and I tonight have been faithful.
Amen.
And the Father is pleased in that. And I find great joy in that. So, Josh, thank you for being faithful. And thank you to everybody. Thank you to my watch party. I love you guys, and I appreciate you. And, man, I'm going to tell you what, there's a lot of learned minds over there. And, man, I'm feeling a little intimidated. I'm not kidding you. But love you guys. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday. And if I don't see you on Sunday, then perhaps next Tuesday for our theology class. We may just start living on here. We may just turn the cameras on and never turn them off. That'd be crazy, man. Well, everybody, I love you. Be safe out there. Be a part of the answer, not part of the problem. Look up, because that's where all the answers are. I'll see you soon.
All right, let's close it out. Take these headphones out so I can actually hear myself. You are good. You are good when there's nothing good in me. You are love on display for all to see. You are light when the darkness closes in. You are hope, you have covered all my sin. And you are peace when my fear is crippling. You are true, even in my wandering. You are joy, you're the reason that I sing. You are life, in you death has lost its sting. And oh, I'm running to your arms, the riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your great embrace, the light of the world forever reign. And you are more than my words will ever say. You are Lord, all creation will proclaim. You are here, in your presence I'm made whole. You are God, of all else I'm letting go. And oh, I'm running to your arms, the riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace, light of the world forever reign. My heart will sing no other name. Jesus, 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 and oh, I'm running to your arms, the riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace, the light of the world forever reign. And oh, I'm running to your arms, the riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace, the light of the world forever reign. All right, see you next week. Bye bye.